There comes a moment in every strong person's life where they have to make a decision, not to stay silent and hope they'll be seen, but to finally walk away and show exactly what their absence feels like. See, when someone takes you for granted, they're not just disrespecting you, they're underestimating the value you bring to their life. They get used to your loyalty, they normalize your kindness, they see your patience, and instead of honoring it, they test it. But the moment you get up from the table, when you remove your energy, your support, your consistency, that's when they realize they were never dining with just another person. They were seated beside something rare. People only appreciate what they feel they're losing. That's human nature. As long as you're always there, answering every call, forgiving every mistake, showing up no matter how they treat you, they start to believe you'll always be there. They stop saying thank you, they stop checking in, they stop investing. And when you finally choose to walk away, not with anger, but with clarity, something shifts in them. It's not your departure that hurts them most. It's the realization that they were the ones who pushed you to leave. But here's the truth. You were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person. Your presence was the gift, your love, your energy, your faithfulness. That was the value. You thought they didn't see you, but really, they saw you and didn't know what to do with something so pure, so constant, so strong. So they tried to minimize you. And when they couldn't control you, they ignored you. And so they tried to make you the problem until you disappeared. And when you disappear, they realize silence has a sound, a loud one. Your absence becomes their punishment. The love they thought would stay forever, gone. The support they believed was unconditional, taken back. And what they're left with is a version of themselves they never had to face while you were there to distract them from it. They'll remember every time you showed up, every time you forgave them, every late night conversation, every I got you moment, because now there's nobody left to fill that space. You were the calm in their storm, the softness in their chaos, the only one who truly saw them. And now that you're gone, they have to sit in the wreckage they created alone. Don't look back. Let them regret. Let them realize. Let them feel the weight of their choices. You didn't lose them. They lost you. And that loss is going to echo in their mind every time they reach for something real and remember they had it and took it for granted. Keep walking forward. Your value is not determined by someone else's failure to recognize it. Sometimes the greatest shift in power happens not when you raise your voice, but when you say absolutely nothing. Silence can say what words never could. Because when someone has taken you for granted, they expect you to react. They expect you to beg. They expect you to chase. That's the pattern they got used to. They do wrong and you fix it. They pull away and you run after them. But when you stop doing that, when you choose silence over explanation, peace over chaos, dignity over desperation, they begin to hear everything they ignored before. See, silence is powerful because it forces people to sit with themselves. It leaves space for them to truly see who they've become in your absence. And trust me, that silence echoes louder than any argument ever could. You're not punishing them with your silence. You're protecting yourself with it. You're preserving your energy. You're choosing not to explain your worth anymore because someone who truly values you will never need it explained in the first place. When you stop showing up to prove your loyalty, they begin to question their own behavior. When you stop replying, they start reflecting. Your silence becomes a mirror, and in it, they see every mistake, every missed opportunity, every moment where they thought you'd stay no matter what. That's when regret kicks in. That's when the same person who thought you were replaceable realizes they can't find another you. And this is important. You don't go silent to manipulate. You go silent to heal. You go silent to center yourself, to reconnect with the version of you that existed before they taught you to settle for less. That version of you, the whole, peaceful, grounded version, is what silence brings back. You start to feel yourself again. You start to see things clearly. And while they're out there wrestling with guilt, you're finally at peace. And they may not say it out loud, but your silence teaches them everything they refused to learn when you were speaking. It shows them what respect looks like. It shows them that you won't fight to stay in spaces where you're not valued. It teaches them that losing access to you is their consequence, not your punishment. And eventually that silence becomes unforgettable. Not because it was loud, but because it was real. Because it meant something. Because it was the moment you took your power back. Not by trying harder, but by finally letting go. You know, one of the most painful things in this life is giving someone the best version of you and watching them throw it away like it was nothing. But the truth is, people don't always realize what they have until it's gone. That's not just a cliche, it's human nature. We get used to good things, we take kindness for weakness, we assume people will always be there, especially when they've shown up for us again and again. And when someone takes you for granted, it's often because they've mistaken your love for dependence, your patience for passivity, your loyalty for lack of options. But here's what they never saw coming. The moment you stop pouring into someone who only knows how to take, the moment you shift your energy inward, the moment you stop showing up unappreciated is the moment they realize what they lost. And it hits differently. Because it's not just the loss of a person, it's the loss of peace, comfort, support, and realness that they'll struggle to find again. See, regret doesn't always show up when someone walks away. It shows up when they try to find you in someone else and fail. It shows up when they realize they had someone rare and they treated them like they were common. When someone has been so used to you giving endlessly, your absence feels like starvation. They start remembering the little things. Your voice, your words, your encouragement, your loyalty. The things they thought they could replace. But what they discover is this: real love, real presence, real care. Those things don't grow on every tree. And now they're in a place of internal conflict because pride will keep them from reaching out. Ego will tell them to stay quiet, but their soul knows what they lost. Their mind replays the moments they dismissed, and their heart starts to ache in the silence you left behind. And what about you? You're no longer in the same place emotionally. You've grown, you've healed, you've reconnected with yourself. The version of you they took for granted no longer exists. And that is the most powerful transformation. When someone regrets losing you and realizes that even if they came back, they wouldn't recognize who you are now because you've evolved. You've become someone who no longer begs to be chosen. You choose yourself. And the irony of it all is this: the very moment they finally see your value is the moment they can no longer access it. Healing in silence is one of the most powerful things you can ever do, because when someone takes you for granted, the temptation is to explain your pain, to prove your worth, to make them understand just how badly they hurt you. But true growth doesn't come from getting even. It comes from getting silent. It comes from choosing yourself in the background while the world is watching for your reaction. You see, silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Silence is peace. When you stop arguing, stop proving, stop chasing, everything starts shifting. The energy changes. Because the moment you withdraw your attention from someone who only knew how to drain you, they start feeling the weight of your absence. They might not admit it, they might not show it, but they feel it, because presence has power, but so does absence. Silence gives you space to rebuild your emotional foundation. It allows you to reconnect with the version of you that existed before you started bending yourself just to be understood. In silence, you begin to hear your own thoughts again. You start recognizing what you really need, not what someone convinced you to settle for. And that clarity, it becomes your power. While they expect a reaction, you give them distance. While they anticipate anger, you offer indifference. And that shakes them more than anything else could. Because now they're not just dealing with a person they hurt, they're facing the silence of someone who is no longer emotionally available to be toyed with. The beauty of silent healing is that it doesn't ask for closure. It doesn't beg for an apology. It doesn't wait for someone else to come around. It takes accountability. It takes growth. And it takes strength. Because you've decided that your peace is more important than their validation. And that mindset, that level of emotional discipline, that's what makes you untouchable. So while they sit in the chaos of their own decisions, you rise, quietly, but powerfully. You glow differently when you're no longer trying to convince anyone of your worth. One of the most transformative things you will ever do in life is this: learn to become unavailable. Not in a cold or arrogant way, but in a way that protects your peace, your growth, and your standards. Because when someone has taken you for granted, when they've misread your kindness as weakness, your loyalty as desperation, your love as convenience, the only real revenge is in becoming a version of yourself they no longer have access to. Availability is power, and for too long, you may have been too available to their moods, their inconsistencies, their lies dressed as promises. You gave them the best parts of you, hoping they would finally see your value. But they didn't. They became comfortable, entitled. And when people get too used to you being there, they stop appreciating why you showed up in the first place. So now you shift. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. You realize that your time, your energy, your heart, they are sacred. And anyone who mishandles them, who expects them without effort, who shows up only when it's convenient, those people don't get front row seats in your life anymore. This is where the pain becomes power. Because once you make yourself unavailable, people have no choice but to reflect. They feel the void. They wonder why you're no longer replying instantly, why you're not chasing, why you're not fixing what they keep breaking. And that confusion, that's their wake-up call. Because they thought you would never walk away. They thought you'd always be within reach. They thought you needed them, but you didn't. You were choosing them. There's a difference. And when you stop choosing them, when you reclaim your attention and redirect it toward your healing, your purpose, your self-worth, they notice. They may not say it, but they feel it. And nothing is more painful for someone who took you for granted than realizing they no longer have access to the version of you that gave them everything. So stay unavailable to the past. Stay unavailable to drama, to confusion, to anyone who only loves you on their terms. Stay unavailable to people who only remember your worth when you're no longer standing in front of them. Because when you rise in silence and protect your peace with boundaries, you don't just heal, you become unforgettable. Let's talk about silence. Not the kind that's awkward or empty, but the kind that's powerful. The kind that speaks louder than any argument, louder than any explanation, louder than any revenge you could ever plan. Because when someone takes you for granted, when they break your trust or misuse your love, your greatest weapon is not anger. It's not begging or proving your worth. It's your silence. See, silence is clarity. It's the moment when you stop trying to convince someone to value you. It's the moment when your energy says, I no longer need your validation. I know who I am. And when that shift happens, when your silence replaces your explanations, it confuses them. It disrupts their control. It wakes them up because they were used to the noise, They were used to your replies, your reactions, your attention. Even if the relationship was toxic, even if they mistreated you, your presence was constant. And so they got lazy. They got entitled. They assumed that no matter how they acted, you'd still be there to respond, to fight, to fix, to care. But then came the silence. And suddenly, you weren't reacting, you weren't explaining, you weren't chasing. And that silence, that was your growth. That was your healing. That was the sound of boundaries being built brick by brick. Because silence doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you gave up. It means you've chosen peace over chaos, dignity over desperation. You don't need to post it. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to warn them. Your silence does all the talking. It says, I've outgrown the need to be heard by someone who refuses to listen. I've evolved past the need to prove my worth to someone who never tried to understand it. And the beauty is, your silence starts to echo in their life. At first, they don't notice. Then one day they reach for their phone expecting your name to be there, but it's not. They tell a story and instinctively want to send it to you, but they can't. They look at their life and realize the consistency you brought, the peace, the loyalty, and it's gone. That silence becomes regret in their mind, mirror, a reminder. Because what you tolerate teaches people how to treat you. And when you stop tolerating the bare minimum, when you stop rewarding poor behavior with your attention, people begin to realize what they lost. And trust me, they will. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. Silence makes sure of it. So next time you're tempted to send that long message, to call and explain, to try one more time, pause, breathe, and remember, your silence is your healing. It's your power. It's your closure. And more than anything, it's the most painful reminder to them that they no longer have the access they once abused. There comes a time in every person's life when you have to realize that your peace is more expensive than someone else's comfort. It's that moment when you stop showing up for people who never show up for you. It's when you finally decide enough is enough. You've spent too much time overextending yourself, loving people who only took, giving energy to situations that drained you, and hoping for change from those who were never willing to grow. But the truth is, healing doesn't happen in chaos. Growth doesn't happen when you're stuck in cycles of emotional imbalance. You have to remove yourself from the space where you were never appreciated. You have to walk away, not because you're bitter, not because you're angry, but because you've finally woken up to your worth. And when you walk away, when you stop trying to fix what someone keeps breaking, something powerful begins to unfold. You begin to heal. And that healing doesn't happen loudly. It doesn't need to be announced. It's quiet, it's sacred, it happens in your solitude. Because silence is not just a reaction, it's a decision, it's a declaration. You're saying, I will no longer be available to people who made me feel invisible. I will no longer entertain relationships that rob me of my peace. And that kind of decision, you listen to me, it's not easy. It takes courage. It takes clarity. It takes a deep sense of self-awareness to admit, I deserve better. And I refuse to keep shrinking myself to fit into the life of someone who never made room for me. And when you stop entertaining them, when you go ghost, when you disappear, not out of spite, but out of necessity, they feel it deeply. They feel the weight of your absence, and that weight is heavier than anything your presence could have carried. Because they didn't expect you to choose you. They didn't expect you to finally love yourself enough to walk away. They thought you'd keep showing up, keep forgiving, keep explaining, but you didn't. You stopped. And in that stillness, in that absence, they begin to face themselves. You have to understand your peace is not selfish. It's essential. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. You don't have to destroy your mental and emotional health to prove your loyalty. That's not love. That's manipulation. Real love doesn't make you question your worth. It doesn't make you beg. It doesn't leave you in pieces, trying to glue yourself back together every night. So let them regret. Let them miss you. Let them sit in the silence they created. You don't have to yell. You don't have to post cryptic quotes or get revenge. Just leave. Leave with your dignity. Leave with your heart intact. And in that leaving, in that calm, you'll find something they never gave you, freedom. And that freedom will heal you in ways they never could. There's something powerful that happens when you take the pain someone caused you and you use it, not to destroy yourself, but to build something greater. Most people think revenge is loud, aggressive, something you throw back in their face, but the real revenge, the one that changes everything, is quiet. It's the transformation that happens in silence. It's when you take that heartbreak, that betrayal, that disrespect, and you channel it into purpose. You stop trying to make them see what they lost, and instead, you focus on becoming someone they could never reach again. Someone untouchable. Because here's the truth, they never thought you'd rise. They thought their absence would ruin you. They thought their disrespect would crush you. They thought ignoring you would silence your voice. But you didn't fold. You didn't give up. Instead, you got focused. You turned your pain into fuel. You turned your disappointment into discipline. And while they were expecting you to break, you were busy building. The most painful revenge is not proving a point. It's living so well that your existence becomes a mirror to their own failure to value you. It's when they look at you and realize they no longer have access to you. Not because you're angry, but because you outgrew them. You evolved. And what you needed back then, you became it for yourself. You needed love, you gave it to yourself. You needed encouragement, you spoke it over your own life. If you needed support, you built a foundation that didn't need them anymore. This is the part where you stop checking your phone to see if they called. You stop rehearsing what you say if they came back. You stop waiting for closure, because the truth is, you closed that door the moment you chose yourself. Healing is the ultimate revenge. Peace is the loudest scream in a world full of noise. And when they see you walking with confidence, smiling without bitterness, thriving without needing them, they'll feel the weight of their own action. Not because you punish them, but because life has a way of showing people what they lost when they didn't treat someone right. You see, regret hits hardest when they realize you're not the same person they hurt. You didn't just heal, you elevated. You didn't just move on, you transformed. And nothing disturbs someone more than watching the person they once had control over rise into a version of themselves that no longer even notices their presence. That's the revenge. That's the power. And the beautiful part, you don't need applause. You don't need anyone to validate your journey. The peace you have now, the clarity, the strength, that's your reward. That's your win. Keep walking, keep rising, keep becoming. The past already had its chance. Now it's your time. There comes a time in your journey where your silence becomes louder than your words, where your distance speaks louder than your explanations. When someone takes you for granted, they expect you to keep chasing, to keep explaining your worth, to keep pouring into a cup that never once filled you back. But the moment you go silent, not out of anger, but out of wisdom, that's when they start to hear everything you were trying to say. You see, the most powerful move you can make is to pull back, not to punish, but to protect your peace. When you stop engaging, when you stop justifying, when you stop showing up for someone who doesn't even notice your presence, that's when the shift begins. That's when they begin to feel what it's like to be without the very energy they kept taking for granted. Because silence it creates space. And in that space, they're forced to sit with themselves, with their choices, with the echoes of your absence. It's human nature to overlook what's constant. We get used to the people who always show up, who always answer, who always care. But when you remove your presence, you interrupt that pattern. Suddenly, your consistency is gone. Your love, your encouragement, your understanding, it's no longer available on demand. And that's when it hits them. That's when they realize they were never entitled to you. They just got used to having you. But don't mistake silence for weakness. Silence takes strength. It takes discipline not to react. It takes confidence to walk away without needing to slam the door. It takes self-worth to stop showing up where you're not respected. That's a different kind of power, a mature kind of power. The kind that doesn't need revenge because it already knows the outcome. You see, when someone starts to feel your absence, they begin to see your value. But by the time they wake up, you've already outgrown the version of yourself that needed them to see it. That's the turning point. That's where healing becomes your revenge. You're not doing it to prove anything. You're doing it because peace is more valuable than being understood by people who never listened in the first place. Because happiness isn't found in being accepted. It's found in accepting yourself. And when you walk in that truth, the people who once overlooked you will start to regret everything they didn't do. Not because you punished them, but because your silence gave them the chance to finally see what they lost. So don't explain yourself. Don't chase clarity from people who never gave it to you. Just let your silence say everything. Let your absence teach the lessons your words never could. And above all, choose peace every single time. That's your power. That's your freedom. That's the moment you become untouchable. One of the most profound truths you must understand is this: true growth comes not from seeking revenge, but from rising above it. When someone takes you for granted, it's tempting to respond with anger, bitterness, or even a desire to get back at them. But real power doesn't lie in retaliation. It lies in transformation. The moment you stop wasting energy on those who undervalue you and start focusing on becoming the best version of yourself, that's when everything changes. You see, the greatest form of revenge is success. Not the kind that screams in their face or demands attention, but the kind that quietly builds behind the scenes. When you channel your pain, your disappointment, your frustration into your growth, you create an unshakable foundation. You become someone so strong, so confident, and so fulfilled that their opinions no longer hold any power over you. This kind of success doesn't just make them regret taking you for granted. It makes them realize that they lost something priceless. Imagine how powerful it feels to live a life where your worth isn't determined by anyone else's acknowledgement, but by your own unwavering belief in yourself. You no longer need validation from those who fail to see your value because you have created it from within. This transformation is the ultimate form of revenge because it is lasting and self-sustaining. It frees you from the cycle of hurt and resentment, allowing you to move forward with purpose and peace. And here's the secret. When you focus on your own progress and refuse to be distracted by those who took you for granted, you attract new opportunities, new people, and new blessings into your life. The universe rewards those who invest in themselves. Every step you take toward becoming the person you were meant to be is a step away from the pain caused by others. It's a journey of self-discovery, self-love, and self-respect. You don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. Your growth is proof enough. Your happiness is the loudest statement you can make. When they see you thriving, independent, and untouchable, that's when regret becomes real for them. Not because you sought to hurt them, but because your success shines a light on what they lost by not appreciating you. So let this be your motivation. Rise above the bitterness. Turn your pain into purpose. Let your success be the response to being taken for granted. In doing so, you reclaim your power, your peace, and your future. The best revenge is living so fully and authentically that no one can touch your peace again.